Good afternoon. Was no different. Dennis Barr, my chief of the criminal division, and I reviewed this case in its entirety, and we presented it to the grand jury earlier this week. As the normal process, we presented the case to the grand jury in the same fashion with witnesses and evidence, and once we were done presenting, we exit the room. After the grand jury deliberated, they voted to indict Officers Birch and Shonegi with reckless homicide, a felony in the third degree in the death of Mr. Frank Eugene Tyson. Reckless homicide, as stated, is a third degree felony with a potential of 36 months imprisonment and up to a $10,000 fine. I want to stress that these officers are innocent until proven guilty. As I prepare to answer questions to the press, I want to remind you I cannot share the details of grand jury testimony, and because this is a pending case, my ability to respond and provide information regarding the case is going to be limited, and we'll take questions at this time.
So reckless homicide, was that, when you speak to the grand jury, do you give them options? Do you recommend a charge? How did they arrive on reckless homicide and not some other charge?
So the grand jury reviews the evidence that's presented, and then they come to the conclusion what charges they're going to move forward with, and they vote on that, and that's how the indictment comes about. Any other questions?
Why do you feel reckless homicide matches what happened here?
I believe that the grand jury thought that after evaluating the evidence that was presented, that it was the most fitting charge. You have to understand that if I go further in this conversation, it's contrary to what I just stated a few moments ago. And so based off of the information that was presented to them, they believe that that was the most accurate charge, and that's why they voted on it, and that's why they indicted him indicted those officers on those charges. Yes, sir.
Statistics are showing that since 2016, we have almost $24 million paid out in settlements, plus several others still pending. Currently, as far as the people dying and or serious injury. Now, that's not even talking about the victims who haven't had that happen and still don't have a voice due to the obvious problems that we're facing here in Stark County. What kind of deal can we get from the Stark County prosecutors with the limited choices that we do have as far as the vote coming up to choose, from any type of commitment from you guys to actually start getting the Department of Justice involved and start getting these people, other people, held accountable, not just the police, but those in charge of them?
So as the county prosecutor, I present cases to the grand jury as they're presented. My commitment is to effectuate justice in Stark County and to do what I've been elected to do. Certain things that you might want to be addressed may not be able to be addressed at this moment. It might require a conversation in a different setting at a different time for me to get clarification as to exact what you're asking. However, my commitment is to always to effectuate justice in this community, and that's what I will continue to do. Yes.
Of course, I appreciate the charges that you're going for, but myself, I am looking for a murder charge. Also, the other people that's involved. Looking at the videos, there were other so-called innocent bystanders that also helped. But there will be charges brought against them as well, because I don't think that they should have been involved. Being a police officer, you tell people that's not a police officer to stand back. They were involved too, so is charges going to be brought up on them as well? Because I think charges need to be brought up on them as well, the people in the bar.
So there was no evidence and no indication that the charges would be necessary for those individuals at this time.
Okay. I was wondering, you said that the charges hold in felony 3. So we don't know that with felony 3, you have no record, you have no nothing involved with police. You're probably going to get probation for 5 years. And then if you do well on probation, you'll get off in a year. And everything's all done. So are we gonna give them the maximum of that, of the felony 3? Are we gonna give them the maximum they could get? Or are we going to just let them plead out and they just go ahead and just get the year probation, which they probably won't even get that? Because felony 3 is not that serious. It really isn't that serious.
So the judge in the case is ultimately responsible for the decision of what punishment an individual, if they're found guilty, they are responsible for that. And so I won't speak to that at this time. I won't speak to that at this time. Yes, go ahead.
You said you generally have looked at all the evidence. Are you able to say, were the officers interviewed, and if so, did they express any remorse or anything along those lines, and anything that you saw or heard in the evidence?
I can't provide that, I'm sorry. Yes.
How is your office going to handle this prosecution exclusively, or are you going to co-counsel independent law firm? Second question, is the city going to be representing the officers? Do you have any indication as to whether they are going to have independent co-counsel?
Yes.
And third, well, no, just those two at the moment.
So my office will independently prosecute this case. There's not a mechanism where we co-counsel with criminal cases. We usually can get a special prosecutor on a case that we aren't going to prosecute, whether it's the AG's office or if it's another jurisdiction. That's the case. But this case isn't against the city of Canton. That's a civil case. This case is a criminal case only against those two officers. And so their attorneys, their defense attorneys, will handle their cases.
So you are not going to bring in a special counsel?
Not at this time.
And the city, to your knowledge, will not be representing the police officers?
Not at this time. I'm not aware of that. All I know is that they have their own counsel, and their counsel, however method they've gotten their counsel, I'm not clear on, but that might be questions that you all can ask them at a later time. However, I'm not aware that the city is even involved in their representation as of now.
Has the case been assigned to a judge?
Yes,
Which one?
Judge Farmer. Yes, ma'am.
As you can see from the community coming out here today, this is obviously, it's bringing up a lot of emotions. People are invested in this already, and the course of the case hasn't really started just
Right.
yet. What do you have to say to the community that's watching this play out online right now and also later tonight when it's here?
The reality is this, that I have a job to do, and my job is to make sure that we present cases to the grand jury with fairness, in the right way, no matter who it is, present it like we've always done. And however our grand jury, we have 4 days of grand jury, individuals who have selected, who live in Stark County, however they decide is how we have to move forward. One of the things I spoke of, when I was in council a few weeks ago, I told the people, I cannot guarantee the result of a grand jury proceeding, but what I can guarantee is that everyone will be treated fairly, the presentation of the case will be done accurately and thoroughly, and whatever happens afterwards, we will move forward accordingly. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Are you personally surprised with your decision on the charges?
Listen, I'm not going to give my own personal opinion about it. We go with the flow in all cases, generally, and as we progress through, if things changes, we reevaluate. As we would with any case. I mean, we have thousands of cases a year that we evaluate and that we prosecute and that we have to navigate through. And this case will be no different, no matter who the defendants are. We will still process it and operate the same exact way. Yes. And let me just say this real quick. Initially, our press conference was for press only. And so we were being open to allow community to participate. And so I'm going to limit further questions just so that we can move forward in that. But I'll go ahead and allow you.
You could tell us why and if you ever called a press conference on the Saturday.
So I have not, and the reason why I did it is because I didn't want this to fester long without you all hearing from my office. We had to wait until the officers were served and then subsequently arrested before we can let anybody know or say anything about a secret indictment. And those who know me, I follow the law. And so I had to wait until then before I could share any information. And then by that time, when we got confirmation that they were arrested or in custody, it was later in the evening. And so it's responsible for me to make sure that the press has enough time to get their representatives here and available. So that's why we called it today. Yes, sir.
So reckless homicide, what could or should the officers have done to not make this reckless homicide?
You tried it, and I appreciate the efforts, but I'm not going to disclose that. Any other press questions? Okay, that will conclude my comments at this time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No peace! No justice! No peace! Same name! Frank Tyson! Same name! Frank Tyson! Same name! Frank Tyson! Same name! Frank Tyson! How long did he lay? 5.5 minutes. How long did he lay? 5.5 minutes. How long did he lay? 5.5 minutes. No justice? No peace. No justice? No peace.
Where is Frank's go over to? Yeah, like I don't know what the show is, so like the show is like yeah. Hey Joe. Yeah. Okay, just stay close. Yes, sir. Are you gonna say anything? Okay. Cause you're good. No. You good? You good? Okay. How are we supposed to be first? First. You don't want to do it first? Yeah. Okay. At this time, we're going to hear from Pastor Howard, who's going to open up our remarks with a prayer. Pastor.
Let us pray. All-wise and eternal God, our Father, for the gift of another day, we say thank you. We thank you today, God, for this gathering, this press conference, for this transparency being shared today with us regarding this Frank Tyson case. We're grateful to you, God, for the progress that has been made thus far. We are grateful to the prosecutor's office for this position that they have taken to remind this community and those beyond that there will still be accountability for those to whom much has been given. We know, God, that this is only one step towards justice, but we trust that you are with us every step of the way, and that you are faithful to your promises, never to leave us nor forsake us. So we ask your choice blessings to still be upon the Tyson family as they continue to heal and grapple through this stressful time. We ask your blessings upon the prosecutor's office, the DiCello law firm, and all those who are involved with bringing justice to bear. This is our prayer today, even as we ask for peace to prevail throughout this community and throughout this state and this nation and world. Hear our prayer, O Lord, and do not pass us by. It's in the strong name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
We have with us today a group of people that have experienced police violence, they deserve the first acknowledgement. Okay? So we start with the Tyson family. We have Frank's brother and cousin here with us, brothers. And we will hear from John Tyson today. He'll speak. We have obviously the pastor who you heard from, and we have also the head of the NAACP with us, as well as the Urban League with us today. So we appreciate their support. My partner, Ken Navarro, who I admire and am grateful to stand with, as well as our other lawyers that are here, Joe Fouché and Jordan. We're grateful to have them with us today as well. I would be remiss if I didn't thank my missing partner, Ben Crump, who is our co-counsel on this case. He sends his heartfelt appreciation to all of you who are standing for social justice and who have been supporting Frank Tyson. My remarks begin with one simple declaration. Now we know who the bad guy is.
Yes. Yes.
And it wasn't Frank. It wasn't Frank. It's official. The indictment tells you who to focus on now. The narrative has changed. And through the courage of the Tyson family and through the courage of the folks, the activists who've come here, the community who've been here, who have drummed on this matter, who have not let this matter die, we all say thank you. And we appreciate all of you. We also want to not act like Browns fans today. Do you know what I mean by that? We won a game. And we don't want to get mad about it. This is not the time to criticize and condemn. This is the time to celebrate and uplift the name of Frank Tyson. This is the time to acknowledge that some step of justice has been taken on a very long and painful journey. I want you to understand how rare this is. Frank Tyson, 2 officers indicted. Kevin Conver, dog attacked him. Kevin's here. He doesn't want to speak. Officer discharged. We'll see about the indictment, such stuff later.
That's right.
Zachary Fornash, his mom is here. There's mom. There's Cassandra. Come here. Zachary Fornash. She said, I wish my son had this result, but he was shot by a captain's son. So she has fought as well for the Tyson family and needs to be acknowledged. This is what it looks like to be alive and active in the fight for social justice. It does not take fancy politics. It takes strength. It takes courage. It takes a community to stand up for itself. I need you to hear this. This law firm will not stop. We will not stop fighting until every single one of our clients gets justice and until every single officer is held accountable for what they've done. This is a step towards that accountability, an important step. We do not control this process. We have to now do what we are told to do since we've been little kids going to school. We have to trust our leadership.
That's right. That's right.
What else do we have but that choice? We have had integrity in this room. We have not marched and broken things.
Right.
We have not been violent.
Come on.
We have not been attacking in our speech. And we will not do that today. But what we will do is uplift the name of Frank Tyson and say, thank you, Lord, for this moment.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to shine some fairness on his life. I'll end with these remarks. I take very seriously the opportunity that I have to represent the fabulous people that I don't just call clients, but that I call friends. People, John said he's going to hug me so much, he was going to pick me off the ground. He did not do that because he mocks me out for being shorter than him, and I do not appreciate that. He said, when I first met him, I thought you were taller. But I couldn't be taller. I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't stand up higher than I am standing today. We gathered in a church not too long ago, and the tears were running down John's face and his brother's face over a loved life that they lost. And so hopefully he'll quietly shed some tears when we're not looking over the little bit of justice that has started to come their way. I urge all of you to acknowledge something with me. The prosecutor for Stark County acted with courage by bringing these charges to the grand jury. Our system requires that each of you, each and every one of you, take it seriously and do vote. Do take an active role in your local political systems, because this is how justice actually works. It works through acts of courage, acts of integrity, and one last thing, acts of kindness. And what does kindness look like? It doesn't look like weakness. Kindness looks like checking your own need for vengeance at the door and asking if your cause is motivated from your highest self to make life better for everyone.
Yes.
And if you follow courage, integrity, and kindness, then you'll join us, and we thank you for being here.
Yeah.
All right, you're now going to hear from John Tyson, Frank's brother.
I've always was thinking there was going to be a win in the situation. I mean, we prayed on it as a family. People have been praying for us as a family. It's not the win that we was looking for, but still, just like the indictment was unexpected. And we're going to take this small win and just build upon it and just go to the next stage and phases.
Come on.
Appreciate you listening to me.
We preach all that.
We're now going to hear from Thomas West.
Good afternoon. I actually did a prepared statement prior to the release, believing that justice would be served. To the family, to all that's involved, the Greater Stark County Urban League has received the notice. We heard it late last night that the two officers were indicted and charged with reckless homicide and the death of Frank Tyson. That confirmation is some confirmation that many of us had thought when we seen the last video in April and May. We seen that indictment, and at that point in time, we've all made our judgment. We knew at that point in time that these two officers were at fault. We are now urging the justice system to act swiftly and to hold those responsible for the tragic death and fully accountable. The incident, along with several other incidents throughout our community, was a troubling trend. One that suggests a belief amongst some law enforcement that they are above the law. But it is crucial that the firing of these officers not only come next, but they also are held accountable in the court of law. We are calling the city of Canton to adopt a comprehensive de-escalation policy. Mandatory implicit bias training from an expert and not just from their counterparts. We're calling on them to also adopt Congresswoman Sykes' policy with regard to De-Escalation Act of 2024. Furthermore, we urge that the city to implement all principles of the realignment of policing, including the establishment of Community Policing Advisory Council Board with chiefs. On May 17th, 2024, the Greater Stark County Urban League and the NAACP reached out to the National Urban League and the National NAACP for assistance. we've called on the Department of Justice
Come on.
to investigate
Come on.
these practices.
Oh.
Today,
Oh. Yes.
we still need that assistance
That's right.
and reaching out for that assistance. The Greater Stark County Urban League and the NAACP is dedicated to also working with the family, working with the attorneys, and working with the city. This is not easy for any of us. This is very difficult, and the days ahead is going to be very troubling.
Yeah.
Even so much as justice being served, but also payment being rendered.
Right.
And many of us are the individuals that are paying. So it's important for us to work together, to sit down together, and really work through this process. And let's make certain that the family gets their justice that is deserved.
That's right.
But also, let's make certain that no other family has to go through this again. So, the Urban League stands tall, and we're here for all. And we will work with each and every one of us to try to get our community through this. Thank you.
Cassandra White.
So Cassandra White is the mother of Zachary Fornash, and I asked her if she wanted to say a few words, and she said yes, and so Cassandra.
I want to say that I'm very thankful for the decision made by the grand jury for the Tyson family. My heart goes out to them. I feel like this is a step forward for Canton. Maybe they will see now that they need change, that these officers need training in excessive force. They need training in de-escalation. It's definitely an outcome that I'm very, very happy for the family. And I will still continue to fight for them every Monday at City Hall. Please be there. We got to keep fighting this fight.
Thank you. Now, Hector is here to talk from for the NAACP.
I simply want to say, first of all, the justice in its broadest sense is for individuals to be treated fairly. At the end of the day, it's fairness that we ask for. There's three things that I believe are important as the door for justice has been opened. I'll first say we have not achieved justice, but the door is open for justice. I would also like to say that this is just one step. And yes, we need to celebrate every step, but it's just one. It's also one of the many ills that we face in this community, not only when we look at the criminal justice system, but the other systems that are in this community that need justice as well. So whether it's infant mortality, whether it's childhood poverty, whether it's a housing crisis, but I believe that this venue gives us an opportunity to begin to deal with the ills of this community. If we want justice, transparency, if we want justice, accountability, if we want justice, it's a sense of responsibility.
That's right.
And that's for all of us. And the NAACP and the Stark County Urban League will continue until we achieve justice.
To close our remarks, I want to say that every officer who is excessively violent, who is indicted and taken off the streets, makes it a little safer for every one of us here today. And in honor of the fact that a man lost his life in this struggle to be with each other, to be a community, I want to remind the leadership of the city of Canton of what I've said both to their faces and what I've said many times on camera. We need a dialogue. The people standing with me right now need a dialogue about how to make this city function better. And we want that. We want that opportunity. to the law director who I spoke with, who got mad at me. He said, you know, you want to talk, I said this, I talked to him at a function. He said, you want to talk to me, but you say things in the media all the time. I said, yes. The voices of those who are among the least of us, the voices of those who have been forgotten, the voices of those who have been damaged and destroyed by police violence need to be heard.
That's right.
And so talking about this to him right now, I say, don't be afraid to talk to me.
Come on, Daisy.
Don't be afraid to talk to our community. And do not be afraid to engage in a healing process that can make Canton a city to be proud of.
That's right.
Okay? Thank you. Questions? Yes?
Have you heard from the National, or the Department of Justice? Have you had any feedback from your request?
From the request that was made by the Urban League?
We have not heard. I have heard from Jerica, who has reaching out to the Department of Justice to find out.
No.
Okay, yes.
The only thing as far as members of the community and citizens can do upon themselves to sit there and get into the ears of those that need to is obviously, again, we have a problem. And as you say, we have no voice, which is the biggest issue. We have a lack of integrity, we have a lack of morality, and we have a lack of accountability. What can we do? We the people, the Joe Schmoes, the irrelevants, those of us that they don't listen to, that they don't have the time of day for. What can we do right here, right now, to get these people to listen to us?
Well, I think you've done some of it already.
I trust.
We're here. Number one. Number two, there's a principle that I'd like to share with everyone here, and that is that there is no connection, or education, excuse me, there's no education about who another person is unless there's a connection with that other person. In other words, I can't know you or what you believe in if I label you and if I attack you, right? I can't do that. And so here's another fact. Kindness never seems to matter until you've been insulted. Right? And so the difficulty there is the folks standing with me right now have faced, in some cases, the ultimate insult. Their loved one has been taken. And yet they stand here kindly. So to communicate with the city leadership, think about the principle that I just shared with you. Are you willing to connect with them? Are you willing to educate them who you are? And do it in a way where they can hear you. I assure you that being an agitator is necessary at times, right? So I'm not diminishing the need to mix it up. However, to have a conversation with leadership in any form, whether you're a coach for a football team or a city mayor or the president of or leader of another country, is not born of attack and aggression. It's born of a desire to be heard and to hear. So I would tell you that this is a painful conversation for all of us to have. And if you see through your pain and not take personally how the city leadership needs to protect itself, how it views us, and especially me, as a threat, don't take that personally, but lean into that and say, how can we communicate? How can we do this? Because it's incumbent upon us to take control, not vest control in them, who would be our leadership, but to teach them how to lead us.
There you go.
Yes.
Can you just put in perspective for us just the policing problem here in Canton? The reason why I ask, we just interviewed Cassandra a couple months ago. You're obviously representing the family of Frank Tyson, and we had over the summer the situation with the dog fight. That's right. So can you just put in perspective for our viewers, if you will, just the policing problem here in Canton?
Yeah, you and I have met many times, sadly. This city, I said it before and I'll say it again, is under siege.
Right, yes.
The citizens, hold on. Citizens are treated as if they're enemy combatants in an occupied state. Violence is often the first step taken. A violent assertion of authority is often the first step taken. And so I thank the Urban League and Thomas West. Did you hear what he said? He said instituting mandatory de-escalation training. De-escalation is a concept that says, before I use my power, I seek to understand what's going on. And that's the basis of that concept. Speaking of what's going on, we know that the safety director has had concerns that we don't want to talk or reach out, and we do. And so the safety director, who probably should be answering this question, I'll leave her to address your questions about how unsafe or safe her city is, but she's got a terribly difficult job.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? She does. And I'm not here to attack her or anyone at the city leadership level at all. What I'm here to say, though, is that we have to acknowledge the amount of violence. To your question, ready for this? Since 2022, James William has died. I represent his family. Zachary Fornash has died. I represent his family. Frank Tyson has died. Represent his family. Kevin Conver has been attacked by a dog so viciously it looked like a bear tore half of his right butt cheek off. And that's 4 people in 2 years.
In 2018, Aaron Ross was killed by this.
And that doesn't count all the other historical names that we could speak of. So there is a need that we who don't think of these things all the time have. We who have nice jobs, we who don't think that it'll ever happen to us, have an obligation to ask what is really going on. And to the media, I say thank you for gathering and letting us speak to you, not turning off your cameras, not turning away. Because we need this opportunity to explain what's going on. This is not a group of people who have assembled for some small singular purpose to upset others. We're here because their lives have been taken or their bodies have been ruined. And that's something, right?
Right.
So the other thing that would be important to your question is, could you imagine how much better it would be if every time a citizen was beaten or taken from us by the officers who are employed by the governments that lead us, city, local, state, federal, that a flag flew half-mast somewhere? We value the lives of our neighbors. This group values life. We stand for that. The reason you can't do that, though, in Canton is that the flag would never be all the way up.
Nope.
There would always be a half-mast. So we would like to see the flag of Canton fly proudly. We'd like to see our citizenry safe. And we want to have that dialogue to ensure that these violent scenarios end, or at least become far less frequent than they are here. 1 second. Media, anybody else? And I'll get to community. Okay, yes.
I was wondering, when officers Birch and Shenji were arrested, were they arrested by another member of the Canton Police Department, or Stark County Sheriff, or somebody else?
Whatever information my team may have received, or however, I will not comment on. I will say that I do thank the prosecutor for reaching out to me last night and letting us know of these events. That was a very professional thing that he did, and so we're grateful for that. Yes?
I just want to tell y'all thank y'all.
Oh.
Because y'all came down here and really helped us come together.
Yes.
This is stuff that's been going on for a long time. And we've been trying to holler and say things for forever. Nobody's came. So we really appreciate this law firm for coming out here helping us, bringing us together, even though it hasn't been super tight. But these little steps for us have been united on this fight for change for us and these future generations to come. I appreciate it. We appreciate y'all.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yes?
I was wondering, how do we go about getting on the citizen review board? Because they had one before and it was all clear who they chose to be on it. We want us, people that are in the community that are being reached and being on it, how do we make sure that they give the opportunity for us to be on that board and not them choose?
Hector sits on the board.
Let me say 2 things about that board. That's a board that's appointed by the mayor. But let me finish, please. But what Thomas is talking about is a board that's totally different in the construct of that board, and making sure that there is more citizen power on that particular board. We're looking at some models that have failed. So what we want to bring here to Canton will have a greater opportunity for success. And so to your point, the board that we're looking at developing I use the term lightly when we talk about subpoena kind of power to it, has a development piece in there where we can make sure that we're getting the accountability that we think we need. So to your point, how I sit on a commission review board right now, but that board, again, is a board that needs some development. It needs to have more power to that board. And as a result, right now, we're looking how to develop something that will have that kind of power to it, that will give citizens more opportunity for accountability. When we look at what our biggest issue is, it's the transparency, it's the accountability. And you'll never have justice without those two.
So that's something that answers my question. I want to know how do because we hear about these, because we hear about those boards, but they never develop. So we're actually, we go about making sure
what we will do,
time.
yeah, what we'll do, if you have any questions about those issues, we'll work with you to try to communicate your interest in those matters, and that's important. Yes, sir. I'll get to you. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Good.
Is this effort just for a Kent area or there's some close around? Because the whole Stark County is dangerous. I experienced some things this summer with Celsius Force, and I could have been easily like Tyson on the other end of it.
Come to city council on Monday. We've been united on Mondays. Every city council is at 7 o'clock. So when you want to come on down to city council, we've been speaking and making breakfast down there. So come down here. Yeah,
I'm from Canton, Ohio, but this happened out in Jackson Township.
come down here. Just come down here to the United Force.
So to answer your question, hold on, let me answer this question. What we're doing here serves a cause, for sure. But we gather today for the case of Frank Tyson, right? And so in an indirect sense, this does affect and it does assist, hopefully, a dialogue that does affect everybody in Stark County. That's the hope.
What's your name, sir? My name is Ramsey County. I talked to Joe.
Yes, sir. Hi. Yes.
My question is actually for Hector, and actually you piqued my interest with this review committee. Are you talking about something that is going to have more power than just looking at public records? And I ask this question because, we as citizens, there are some people in this room who are sharpening their public records skills in large part because of this. But that's one level of information. But having been a reporter many years ago, I know that when you're dealing with police stuff, there's a lot of stuff that isn't in public records. So are you talking about a commission that is granted the power under the state law to look at more information other than public records and perhaps talk to witnesses?
There's probably a couple of layers in there when you talk about being able to have information. For example, when we talk about BCI, you'll never get that information. Okay, that information is Columbus. And you'll be hell and high water trying to get it from them. You got me?
Yeah.
However, if we're talking about just the local municipality and what's happening here, there are avenues in terms of, even when we look at the commission that I'm on, that gives us the opportunity to be able to pull records and take a look at them. Now, again, I'll fast forward and talk about why we need to change the shape of that. It's because right now, the commission that I sit on, we are only allowed to look at cases that have already been dealt with. So we don't have the opportunity to look at, for example, a Frank Tyson case because it's an open case. But what we're talking about being able to do, again, if you think about one of our biggest issues is the transparency and accountability. We want to make sure that we have some accountability, and we want to make sure that when we're told no, is it the last no? I think at the end of the day, that's probably what the real big issue is. We get told no, is that really the last no? So what other layer of accountability can we pull out and say, we want this taken a look at, we want this examined again? And so that's the kind of board and the kind of power, and I use that in a pseudo kind of way. And so when you're looking at cases and you're looking at aberrant behavior, when you talk about policing in the community, we're looking at how consistent that is and what kind of recommendations can we make. So the board that I sit on right now simply is a board that has been designed as an advisory board to the mayor. But so much of this that we're not able to really link to the public in terms of just the education. There's a website you can go on and you can take a look at. But when you start to look at, executive authority that a mayor has, or you start to look at city council, those are things that we need to have a little more education about so that we can understand how do we get people on those boards and what is that board about. So we're also talking about what kind of onboarding kinds of things, because you just joined a committee, you need an onboarding, you need to understand how the power within that framework is and how do you use it. So we're learning those things along the way.
Would charter such an entity, would it be a function of where the city council would grant that authority, or would it be the citizens to grant that authority?
Well, let me say this, just for the sake of time. That's a conversation that we can talk about. But when you talk about chartering, or you talk about the power of city council to be able to do some things, you can also talk about the mayor that has executive authority. You can also talk about whether or not we leverage and put things on a November ballot. There's a number of different things we can talk about. What's the best strategy for Stark County? That's what we really need. And we also have some communities around us that's doing some of this work that's not doing it so great. So we also want to take a look at what's already failed. So if we look at how they're struggling up in Summit County with just a few things, there are things that we can do, and there's things that we cannot do.
Yes.
Have the proposals been presented to the, like the proposal for the commission or the proposal?
We're still working on framework in terms, again, we're still working on framework in terms of what that looks like.
Yes.
Many of the names that were mentioned as far as like Andrea Perry, for example, also as far as like Jason Reese, for example. These are the constituents that we have to sit there and depend on to do their job. The problem with that is it's not from lack of trying, because I can promise everybody here, this is my open call out to Andrea Perry. I've tried to make an appointment.
Well, let's do this. Hold on a second, let's do this. We want to focus on Frank, right? Just for right now, and we'll talk more about that last thing.
We can't even get to the table with these people without facing the exact same intimidation.
I get it, but we'll talk more. Anybody else on the media side wrapping up questions? We're going to shut it down. We want to thank clergy, one of whom is here and has been a leader for, frankly, the city and the county. And we want to have the Reverend come on up and close this out with a prayer.
As a sign of our oneness and togetherness today, why don't we all say together the Lord's Prayer? So let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Justice for Frank Tyson.